So I am recording. Welcome to Go Legal Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Attorney Kelly Bagla, the Queen of Business Law. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Robert Timms. Robert is an account executive. He's an advertising account executive with Fox Station in San Diego. He works with local, regional, and national brands, helping them create and execute results-driven marketing campaigns. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Hi, Kelly. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Do you have a joke to share with us?
I do. Actually, both my parents are lawyers, so I have quite a few jokes. But yeah, so hopefully they aren't listening.
Right.
My favorite one is arguing with a lawyer is like wrestling with a pig in mud. You realize they like it.
I haven't heard that one, but that's a good one. Thank you for sharing. What kind of lawyers? Obviously, the honest type.
Of course, yeah. My mom does workers' comp, and my dad does a lot of estate planning as well as some other things.
Fantastic. Well, look at that. So you're obviously not brand new to the legal field.
No, it was common dinner table conversation.
I'm curious, how come you didn't go into law?
Actually, I spent enough time at my parents' offices that me off to the idea.
Oh, how funny. See, I'm quite the opposite, Robert. I'm the very first attorney in my house. Everybody else went into the medical profession, but not me. No, I wanted to venture out on my own, right? I wanted to be a lawyer. But thank God I did, because I absolutely love what I do. Love, love, love. But today is about you, and marketing is everything. It's everything for any business owner if they want to be found, right? And you actually help business owners be found. Tell me about your journey as to how you got into the advertising world and helping business owners be found.
Sure. Well, as I said, I grew up the child of two lawyers, spent a lot of time at their offices growing up. And I remember thinking, man, I don't know if I could just sit at a desk all day. I feel like I want to get out and, be doing things and seeing people and not just at a desk for, 8 or 9 hours a day. And so sales really interested me. So I majored in marketing, and I remember taking
Robert, if you can hear me, you're frozen. Do you want to log off?
For other opportunities and came across a job executive. So it was kind of funny that I landed my session that combined the marketing and advertising that I learned in college with the sales experience that I had from my previous position. So that was about 8 years ago. So for the last 8 years, I've been working at local television stations, working predominantly with local and regional businesses, helping them to set up and execute advertising marketing campaigns for their business.
So you picked obviously one of the hardest professions to go into, right? Sales.
Yes, I don't know that I knew that at the time, quite what I was getting myself into, but I knew that, from my parents' friends and that kind of thing when I was growing up. I saw them and they seemed like they kind of had like a good gig. They got to get out of the office, go meet people, that kind of thing. So, and I'm glad I did it. I've enjoyed it. I like listening to people, learning about their business, and collaborating to kind of help them.
Have you heard or have you read any of the books on sales?
I have. I've read a few sales books, definitely.
Which is your favorite?
Which is my favorite? When I first started at the television station, the most intimidating thing when you're starting out in sales is that cold outreach, right? Cold calling, having awkward conversations with people. It's uncomfortable no matter who you are. And she gave me a book on cold calling that I think really set me up for success. It just made me feel more comfortable, as comfortable as you can with doing that, kind of that cold outreach and making those connections. And my brother recently got into software sales after working on the other side of it for a while. And when he was getting started, he asked me for advice or recommendations, and I told him, read this book. I can't even remember the title now. I think it's 10 tips for cold calling or something. It's a pretty short book, but man, it really set me up, I feel like.
See, I've been listening to a lot of books. That's all I do. Well, besides practicing law, right? Anytime I'm working out, I'm listening to a book. Anytime I take my dogs for a walk, I'm listening to a book. Anytime I'm waiting for a meeting, I literally am listening to a book, right? So that's one of the key successes or key factors, should I say, that every successful person has. They are always bettering themselves, either by listening to a book, either by reading a book, or talking to someone that they can gain knowledge from. One of my favorite ones, and I'm absolutely hooked, it's by Zig Ziglar,
Mhm.
and it's called the Secrets of Selling. What a phenomenal presenter, incredible presenter. Obviously he's passed now, but I really, really wish, I was around during that time where I could have gone to one of his presentations, and he says something about sales, right? So this is timing couldn't be more perfect for you to be on the show. He says sales, someone is always selling. So for example, say you and I go out and we meet, and I'm saying to you, Robert, I really would love to promote my business, right? Because I'm the best in what I do, and people need my products, but they don't know how to find me. And then you come back and say, well, Kelly, I can absolutely help you with that, because I think that these are phenomenal products, and yes, we can get you found. And you present me with some plans, and all of a sudden I say, wow, those are very expensive. They're out of my budget. I don't know what to do. At that point, if it wasn't you and it was somebody else, they would say, well, you can always come back to us when you get a budget. Well, somebody made a sale in that example, right? It was me. I closed because I said, I can't get it. I closed, and that other person walked away. They didn't make the sale. But everyone is always selling at every single time. And that was it's like a little light bulb that went off. People want to be sold to. If they're meeting with you, they're halfway there. But in full disclosure, I personally have worked with you, and I personally can vouch for you're not that type that's going to walk away and say there's no budget for you, right? If you don't have a budget, I can't work with you. But marketing, talk to me, Robert, about marketing in particular, because again, without marketing, you can't be found and you can't sell anything. If a brand new business came up with some products and they came to you, walk me through what that would look like on your end.
Mm-hmm. Well, I talk to people all the time who are thinking about starting a business. I'll occasionally talk to some that say, I'm thinking of starting such and such business. I don't even have a name for it. I'm just putting together the business plan. What does it cost to advertise? And so what I would say to someone who is thinking of starting a business is, when you're putting together your business plan, definitely account for the cost of marketing or driving leads to your business, because I get the impression that a lot of people put together their business plan and they think, well, starting out, I'm just going to be the little guy. I'm not going to be able to afford advertising. I'll just, use word of mouth to build myself up to a certain point. And then when I'm big enough, then I'll start really marketing and driving the leads. But when you do that, you're leaving a lot up to chance. You're hoping that people are going to refer business to you. And so what I would say is, when you're putting together your business plan, just reach out to someone that works in marketing or advertising and just get an idea of what a marketing plan for your business would look like and what it would cost, and then bake that into your budget. You've invested too much time, too much money to roll the dice on hope. So have a plan going into it. And then as far as putting together a marketing plan, the first step, you want to kind of map out your customer's journey. So that's going to look a little different for every business, but you want to say, how does a customer come to know my business and eventually do business with me? And as I said, that's going to look a little different for every business and every industry. But it boils down to a couple steps: awareness, interest, research, purchase, and then loyalty and advocacy. So once you have those steps, then you want to ask yourself, how can I reach a potential customer at any stage in this journey? And that's when you start looking at the different media types and matching them up to each stage in the journey.
So walk us through that. Give me an example.
Well, let's take your industry, for example. Let's say your LegalZoom. I'm aware of what LegalZoom is, but I'm not at all very interested or familiar with the specifics of the services that they offer. I'm aware of them because I hear their ads on NPR. So in the awareness stage, you want to utilize broad reaching mediums like television, newspaper, print, billboards. You're reaching people who may or may not be in the market for whatever service you're offering. Then something's going to happen in these people's lives that is going to kind of maybe bring them into the market for whatever service you offer. So maybe they suddenly have a need, they want to start a business, or they have some kind of need for legal services. At that point, they then have a general interest in whatever the business is. So you want to use a little bit more targeted medias to reach those people. And when I say targeted, I mean broadly targeted. So you want to look at what are the demographics of the typical person that you do business with, and you want to target to those people. So it could be as broad as adults ages 25 to 54 who have an average household income of $100,000 plus, they're homeowners, whatever, just pretty general. But again, drilling down a little bit in the funnel. And then your people are going to get into the research phase. So these are people that are actively looking online. They're planning to make a move on whatever service you offer. It's just a question of with whom. So you want to utilize different medias that are catered to people who are in the research phase. So that's things like this podcast that we're doing. That is things like blogs, paid search engine marketing, really bottom of the funnel stuff that's catering to people who are going to take action. It's just a matter of with whom. And then you get to the purchase stage. They ultimately make a purchase based on, who they're familiar with, the research they've done online, and who their friends or family advocate to them. Once they've made the purchase, then you get into the loyalty and advocacy stage. So if they have a good experience, they're going to do business with you again, and that's going to make them loyal. If they continue to have a good experience, then they're going to become advocates, and that's where you get into that word of mouth marketing. That's when they're going to tell people, oh, I've been doing business with such and such for years. Sounds like they could help you. Here's their number, reach out to them.
That's pretty fantastic, the way you laid everything out. Now, as far as marketing itself, right, it's quite scary, Robert, for anyone that is just starting out, and even someone that is growing their business. But they do understand without marketing, they're not going to get very far. I think that's one mistake that entrepreneurs make when they first start out. Okay, so I want to start a business, right? And it's going to be a dog grooming business. And I'm really, really great with dogs. I'm really, really great with grooming. And I'm going to open up shop. Well, you can open up shop, but you're probably going to get people that walk by it, or you're going to get people that visit the local area. Maybe they've got a pet or not, or they can refer you. But marketing, again, it sounds very expensive, Robert, especially to do, TV ads and radio ads, and then, print ads. Everything is really expensive. How can you justify the expense for someone? Yes, instead of using expensive, it's an investment, right? And that's what we like to use on the show. Anything that you spend on your business, it's an investment in you and your business. So how do you justify the advertising, and does it just stop there?
So, like I said, a great way to set yourself up for success is going to be to plan ahead when you're putting together your business plan. So, um, reach out to someone in the industry and just have a conversation for how much does this cost. And it, money is always going to be a factor. So figure out what your budget might look like. And then again, like I said, reach out to someone in the industry, take a partner on this and get their advice of where they think your budget would best be spent. It's going to look a little different for every industry, like I said. But it really does kind of boil down to those steps, like I said, and that I'm speaking to whether you're a B2B or B2C company. But as far as choosing the media, a professional is going to be able to kind of guide you. But word of advice is a good way to compare different media is to take a look at the CPM. That's the cost per thousand. It's what it costs you to reach 1,000 people in whatever your target demographic is. A lot of the broader medias like billboards, broadcast television, cable, radio, those are going to have less expensive cost per thousands. As you get more and more targeted, with targeted pre-roll and things like that, depending on the targeting parameters, you're going to have a higher cost per thousand. But the 1,000 that you're reaching is more targeted or more of who you want to be reaching, and they're closer to that buying stage. And then you get into other things too, like with paid search, with cost per click. That's kind of a whole different ball game. But a good way to compare media is just to look at that cost per thousand. But there's other factors to consider too, such as intrusivity, the content with which you're associating your business. So you might be able to get a cheaper cost per thousand with a billboard, but if you have a story to tell, that can't always be done with a billboard. So it might be a slightly higher cost per thousand to buy television, but you can't beat the intrusivity. I mean, there's no other medium that goes into someone's living room and gives them a 30-second sales pitch on your business. So there's a few factors to consider, but again, cost per thousand is a good way to kind of compare media, apples to apples.
I'm going to give a shout out to a mutual acquaintance of ours, and this is my story as to how I found you, right? And I loved what you said earlier: is talk to people. Don't be shy. You're never going to get anywhere if you're going to sit back and say, I don't think I should disturb someone. Then you shouldn't really be in business. It's not your forte. I'm a very straightforward person, Robert, and I'm just telling it how it is, right? Because if it's not you, there's another one that's just waiting and hungry enough to get up and call someone. Exactly, just find someone that you can talk to. So every, probably 3 or 4 times a day, and probably 3 or 4 times a week, Brent Wilsey. He's with Wilsey Asset Management, and he's in San Diego. And he was actually a guest on my show. To highly recommend the listeners to go back and listen to Brent Wilsey's interview. But I saw Brent Wilsey again, on my TV, in my living room 3 or 4 times a day, right? And so when I just called him, I picked up the phone and I called him, and he answered the phone. He goes, how can I help? I said, hey, Brent, your name is exactly the same as my husband's name. And I thought that was a made up name because my husband was the very first Brent I'd ever met. And so we had a chuckle, right? And I was asking him, I said, you do some great advertising on TV. Do you mind telling me who you went through? And that's when he made an introduction to you. And it was on, with Fox stations, and Fox 5 in particular here in San Diego. And he made an email introduction, and that's how, you and I got connected. And what I loved about working with you, Robert, is that you go above and beyond. I've never seen that type of customer service in the marketing world, right? You went above and beyond. You really do care about the clients that engage with you. You really want them to be successful, like you said. Then you build that loyalty. They want to keep coming back and say, Robert, let's do it again. That was such a great experience, right? But there's some misconception about, okay, as soon as I get on TV, I'm going to get all of these clients. Well, there's, again, it's dependent on each industry. If the name, or if the game, right, is to get brand recognition, TV is fantastic, right? Like you said, you're in households 2 or 3 times a day, 2 or 3 times a week. Um, and people start to remember, okay, that was Kelly, that was Go Legal Yourself. That was, and some of my uh, friends that I know here in San Diego, when my commercials were playing, Robert, they would text me and say, I wasn't even looking at the TV. I heard your voice, Kelly. I knew it was you. I had to drop everything, what I was doing, and I had to say, is that really her? So people get to know you and they're going to refer you that way as well. But people that are probably not ready for your product at the moment, they're going to remember, oh, yes, that's my favorite channel. I watch it all the time. And they bring, these successful businesses to showcase their products. So I'm just saying it was such a fantastic experience working with you. Obviously you provide these types of services to a wide range of businesses, products and services as well. So how share a success story with us, Robert, about one of the businesses you might have engaged with, and what the results were.
Mm-hmm. I'll go back to my time in Norfolk, Virginia. I worked with a psychiatric care center, and it was actually around kind of in the area that I grew up in, nearby a neighborhood. So I'd grown up driving past this place my entire life, never really knew what it was. And I'm new, I'm trying to make connections, and so I reached out to the marketing director and just kind of introduced myself, and I don't know that I ever even got a response, but months later I got a call from her and she said, hi, I'd like to meet. And so we met, and they're right next to Virginia Beach General Hospital. It's the largest hospital in the area. And what would happen is people would get sent to the hospital, and if the needs fit, the hospital would send them over to Virginia Beach Psychiatric Center. Well, the hospital had started their own wing that offered the services of what Virginia Beach Psychiatric Center offered. So they had lost that source of patients, and she was now looking for ways to kind of, fill the beds without the help of the hospital next door, now that they offered the same services. So we started a television campaign, and in order to track it, I would send her the spot, or rather she would send me the times people would call in, and she would also send me her Google Analytics. And so I would look at the times that the spot ran, and I would look at, cross-reference that with their call times and the Google Analytics. And we'd set it up in such a way so they were only on, they were on two weeks on, 2 weeks off, and they were only on Sunday nights through Tuesday. So the idea was that a lot of the calls they get would be from friends or family members who are concerned about a friend or a loved one. And typically it always happened later in the weekend or early in the week, because either they were with family that weekend, and that's when the family realized that things had gotten out of control and there was a problem. And so that's when a majority of the calls would occur. So that's why we focused the commercials on there. And they actually doubled the number of incoming inquiries that they got in the weeks that we had the television campaign running. So they signed on for a couple months, 3, I think. And then after that, they started signing annual deals. And, we built a long lasting relationship. I think the marketing director actually got promoted within the organization to go to other psychiatric centers in other parts of the East Coast and implement exactly what we had implemented for other hospitals in other states. So it was hugely successful, and I took an opportunity with Fox in San Diego and moved. But as far as I know, they're still advertising and they're still doing great.
Yeah, I wonder, that must have been a really hard move for you, right? To move to San Diego.
I think it was harder on my mom.
There you go. I'm sure. But now she's got a beautiful place to come visit, right?
She does. And my brother lives in Montana. So, she's got the mountains and the beach, and, she lives in Virginia Beach herself. So it's not a bad place.
No, not at all. Not at all. So, how does a typical day for you? What does that look like at the station?
Well, I really work for the clients. So it's a lot of maintaining the campaigns, making sure everything's running, looking at what's running, seeing if any changes need to be made, a lot of reporting back to clients. And a big part of the day, from the hours of 10 to 4 are just fielding incoming client needs. You get calls asking for this or that. It's predominantly running the campaigns. And then, you when I have the time, is speaking to potential new advertisers, people like you who've reached out to me that have questions. And then also, getting out there in the community and making connections to introduce myself to new potential businesses and that kind of thing. So it's a lot of running existing campaigns, and then also talking to people who are thinking about starting a business or thinking about starting a marketing campaign for their business. I do a lot of that, a lot of talking to people who are just interested in how to go about the process.
That's fantastic, Robert. I'm just going to take a moment here and recognize one of our sponsors. Our sponsor is Bagla Law Firm. Bagla Law Firm helps with business formations, business contracts, asset protection. So you can always find Bagla Law online at bagla.com or baglaw.com. Robert, share with us a challenge that you faced. I'm trying to word this in a way that it's not sort of your everyday challenges that people go through, right? So being in sales, what was one of your hardest sale you had to make?
Oh, my hardest sale. They all feel pretty hard.
But it's always for their best interest, isn't it?
Yeah, yes. I think a lot of people think that, when you think of a salesperson, you think of someone that's just always trying to get the deal done and trying to close no matter what. And when I look at my day to day, that's not really what I do. I feel like I more just answer questions and offer advice to people who are interested in marketing their business or starting a business. I think what a lot of people, they're probably intimidated to reach out to someone like me because they see that I work at a local news station, and they think that no matter what their business is, I'm going to try and push them into advertising on Fox. But what they don't realize is that my station is not actually one of the stations that's owned by Fox. We're actually owned by a much larger media company called Nexstar, who owns hundreds of stations across the country. And so we offer a ton of different media platforms and services to clients. So we're really a full service ad agency for local businesses housed within the news station. So, a big part of my day is just talking to business owners or people looking to start a business and just helping them to plan out a campaign for their business and offering them advice. I don't feel like there's a whole Wolf of Wall Street, hard sell, close, anything like that. It's more just having conversations and offering advice. I don't know that there's any really hard sell. I think the hardest part of anything is getting the campaign up and running, because there's so many different media platforms now that go into creating a campaign. That, you know, everyone's attention is so fragmented across so many different platforms that when you create a campaign that lets you reach someone at every stage of that buying process that we talked about, it becomes a lot of moving parts and a lot of elements. So my day is making sure that the campaigns are running smoothly. And I think that's the hardest part of the sale. It's not getting the deal done or anything like that. It's keeping track of everything and coordinating and making sure that the campaign's running successfully.
I think you hit it on the head when you said local businesses, right? So in San Diego, San Diego is a small community, and it's truly based on trust. That's what I've noticed. I've been here for, close to 16, 15, 16 years, something like that. And uh, and I've noticed that people run in the same circles, right? You're always going to bump into someone that you met a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And San Diego is very, very close as a community, and it's based on trust. And I know for a fact, my experience with you personally, Robert, was phenomenal. Everything that you just shared on the show, that's exactly what I experienced. You were on the mark. You were providing feedback to me. This is my very, very first time ever doing a local commercial here. And the experience, you made the experience just a wonderful experience. Absolutely, right? And whenever we're going to do it again, obviously I'm going to reach out to you because we've built that trust. And your information is going to be part of our show notes. So anyone here, and I highly, highly recommend all of these local businesses, just reach out to Robert. He's not going to charge you, right, to sit down and have a cup of coffee. I mean, I would, but Robert would.
Gotta get those billable hours.
Exactly. You get a bill in the mail, right? Well, what is this for? Having coffee. But seriously, local businesses here in San Diego, definitely you need to reach out to Robert. Just have a coffee or a lunch with him. Just meet with him and understand your options. If you're not going to make that move, again, you're in a business that you really shouldn't be in, right? Because if you're in a business, you're selling a product or service, clearly, unless you've got one client and you're satisfied with that one client for the rest of the longevity of your business, that's okay. But if you really want to provide a service or a product to the people that is going to benefit the people, you really do need to sit down with Robert, talk about the options, talk about marketing plan, get your numbers right in order. So when you are ready to go, you can actually be ready to go. You don't have to waste further time. Last question for you, Robert, is if you had to do it all over again, what would you change?
So, do anything specifically over again?
Yes.
Oh, I think back in college, I would have taken advantage of more of the resources that were available to me at the time. There was a lot of different marketing clubs uh, and things that I could have taken advantage of that I have since found myself focusing more heavily on. For example, I thought that I was going to work in sales, not necessarily advertising. So I wasn't too focused on learning, joining the club that was focused on Google AdWords, and they went to San Francisco and visited the campus. That wasn't of such interest to me at the time. But now that I work in the industry, I wish that I had taken advantage of more resources like that in college. It's because it's all things that I have since had to learn. There's a lot of studying that goes on, in your free time, just to stay sharp with all the changes that are happening within the advertising and media industry. Because there's new platforms every day. I mean, TikTok wasn't a thing a couple of years ago, and there's going to be something new tomorrow. So you always have to be educating yourself. And so I would just tell people to take advantage of as many opportunities and resources as you can around you. early on, because you never know what doors they're going to open for you later.
Robert, you have been a phenomenal guest on the Go Legal Yourself podcast show. Can't wait to have you back on again. Uh, Thank you for sharing your wisdom and being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And for my fantastic listeners that are out there locally and internationally, yes, we are an international show. We're in about 25 countries right now, and we are growing. So even for you guys out in the different parts of the world, if you want to bring your products or services to the great United States of America, now you have a resource. You can contact Robert directly and say, "Hey, Robert, I'm in Australia and I want to move there." And obviously San Diego is a beautiful place to move and do business in. So maybe you'll get some contacts from overseas, Robert.
Marketing's more or less the same in any country, so happy to talk to anyone and offer what advice I can.
That's fantastic. And anyone can listen to this show by either downloading the app, and the beauty about the app is you can contact any of our guests directly from the app. You can contact me directly from the app, and you can actually get more information on our guests as well. So download the app from any of your app stores. Go legal yourself. And it's been a wonderful pleasure being your host today. I am attorney Kelly Bagla, the queen of business law. Until next time, cheers to your success.